Thank you for tuning in to Wednesday Inspirational Book Lounge. I'm your host, Anna Murby. Today we welcome back Pastor Hubert Carl as he reads to us the well-known Green Leaf in Drought Time, a harrowing missionary story of a family who gave up everything to do pioneering missions work in inland China. Enjoy the show.
Green Leaf in Drought by Isabel Kuhn, published by China Inland Mission, 1959. Read by Hubert Carl. Now, before we start the chapter, there's a bit of information that I thought would be important to know. The book started in mid-1950 and ended in mid-1953. What they never say in the book, that was the exact same time when the United States was involved with the Korean War. It started in June of 1950 and ended in July of 1953. Not only did the Chinese hate the Christians because they believed in God, but they also hated the Americans because they were fighting with the Chinese in the Korean War. Chapter 5. You Are God When I Can't Understand. It was only a week after the Easter message when Pastor Jin came to Arthur and told him it would be better if they did not attend church anymore. Spies of the Red government usually came to church services to find something with which to accuse the Christians. All over China, this was a policy. And as the charges level did not have to be important, it made each Christian nervously scan his small complications. We write this to excuse the church's weakness. No one should criticize them who have not sat where they sat. For instance, the little matter that had arisen, to quote the Kingfisher, and which he used to detain the Matthews family, were the following charges made by Leah, a female Diotrephes, in the previous station, who acted as a spy for Mrs. Cow, whom they never had met. Arthur was accused, number 1, of standing on the table belonging to the church. Number 2, of misusing a memorial plaque which had been given to Dr. Cow. Number 3, of killing a dog. Number 4, of locking the church kitchen door of the church. Number 5, of closing the school at Changyin. There was truth in each of these charges. The table was rickety, and the church had allowed them to use it. The dog was astray, and the deacon had asked him to kill it. The kitchen door and the school were matters decided and agreed upon by the church meeting with the proper leaders present, and Arthur was asked to carry out their wishes. Arthur's signed confession of each of the above charges was a masterpiece of groveling. This serious-minded communist would see it as a good material for anti-missionary propaganda, but not so to the foreign reader. Hangzhou missionaries had many hearty laughs over the hidden sarcasm in the abstruse wording. It was finally arranged that Mrs. Cow would be paid 3 million Chinese dollars to comfort her. That would be about $135 U.S. Under such a regime, the less contact you had with the foreigner, the better for you. Hence the church's request. But to Arthur and Wilda, it meant they were cut off from spiritual fellowship with the Chinese brethren. From then on, they had longer family prayers, with singing every night in the kitchen, and special sessions on Sundays. Just wanted to add another note. The room they used for a bedroom had windows, but they had no glass, so everything they said could be heard by the neighbors. The next month, May 1951, they were granted the use of another room upstairs, which was not quite as hot as the summer approached. Then, in the middle of July, word came that the sinning missionaries had all been granted exit permits, except Clarence Preedy, and were leaving. Along with this came secret word to them to get ready to go also. As Wilda's mother and father had both been ill, they jumped to the conclusion naturally that God was going to send them home so that the grandparents would get to see dear little Lilla, who, of course, had never met them. They packed everything and even went to eat with the Chinese for 4 days, wishing to be fully ready at split-second notice. But as no further word came, they realized it was only another tantalization, so came back to the kitchen and unpacked. Willa writes, immediately after I last wrote, there was a sudden fluttering of our heart's wings, and they soared high for a short spin, only to make a forced landing in more mud. So life seems to go. However, our times are still in His hands. And when his time arrives, there will be no more mud holes. Peace took wings too, for a few days as we looked to men. Now that our Father had been able to get our eyes centered upon himself again, once more peace was reigning. 2 words summed up those 2 weeks: packing and waiting. Everything is packed. We even get Lila's clothes each day, the clean ones, out of the road suitcase. We've been eating with others because our utensils are packed. Can't go on like that for long, though, so we're making other arrangements. It seems that last straw, but by God's grace, must not break the camel's back. Another party has moved forward, but one has become a Peter. May he soon meet Rhoda. Friends at home recognize the reference to Dr. Clark's being sent to prison. We feel for you all in this disappointment as much as for ourselves. But God is able, and we do believe, to see his goodness. We wait only upon God. Both Arthur and Wilda found that every single green leaf put forth by them, especially in letters, was immediately challenged by the enemy of souls. Arthur had written, "Sleep on, Lord, even though the boat may be covered with waves." In less than a month, a wave struck them that threatened to carry Wilda away. For some months now, Wilda had been hoping for a little brother or sister as a companion for Lila. But in September, having had to lift the heavy cellar door in one of Arthur's absences, she was stricken. Not only did she lose the little one, but she herself became so ill it looked as if she might go too. In March, Arthur had feared what would become of her if he were executed. Little did he think his next fear would be that she might be taken before him. What should he do? He had no medical experience for this kind of thing. But as he prayed, God reminded him of the Roman Catholic priest who lived in Huangyan. Arthur sought him out and found him very sympathetic and kind. He suggested sulfadiazine. Arthur still had some from his Mongolian clinic supplies, but he also gave some in powder form and an injection. Under the Lord's hand, these were successful, and the fever began to abate. Willa was given back to them, and so the storm was weathered. It was immediately followed by testing in the realm of finances, of which our next chapter will tell. But there still remained one last tremendous trial before the year 1951 closed. Dr. C, seeing that his medical work was in no danger of rivalry, sometimes came to the kitchen to talk with him. In December, Wilda heard rumors of scarlet fever in the city, and so when the Chinese doctor returned from attending some of these cases, she was not too pleased to see him come into their little kitchen and to start playing with Lila's picture books and chat with her. After he left, she tried to disinfect these as best she could. Lila had so few toys and only 3 books. But 2 nights before Christmas, the little one would not eat her supper. She complained of a sore throat, and when they carried her up to her faraway bedroom, she felt feverish. Hurriedly, they got out the medical book, and by the light of the candle looked for symptoms. Just when they got to those resembling Lila's, that invaluable book said, "At this stage, consult your physician." Arthur threw the book into the corner and got down on his knees. He did have a great physician. The first impression that came was to get the baby out of the icebox of a bedroom. So he wrapped her up in blankets again and sent her down to the warm kitchen with her mother, while he tore up the beds and lowered them over the balcony to the ground below. Then he proceeded to set them up in the kitchen. Arthur later wrote, "Lila's bed fit easily into the pantry. Wilda's bed became a nice couch in the day, and I am like the sick of palsy, with a movable bed that takes the floor at the critical moment. We're busier these days. I've had to winnow the grain, roast it, grind it, all in the last 2 days. I am the water carrier also, to say nothing of stoker, baker, and other things, doctor included." Wilda wrote, on December 19th, Arthur had a sleepless night because of a tooth, which had been bothering on and off for 6 months. The next day he went to take it out. The doctor, Dr. C, not a dentist of which there was none in Hangwan, broke it off. He took all afternoon to do that, and Arthur came home shaking like a leaf, and he had to go back the next day. This had to be followed by a day in bed. So I had my turn finding out how much he does for us, and it is no joke to stoke a cold stove with brushwood continually for a time long enough to cook breakfast and dinner in one go. and incidentally do all the other things which have to be done while there's a fire. Carrying Lilla up and down stairs didn't help me either. I developed a bad cough, which has ended in a heavy cold made worse by getting up with Lilla. For that little lady decided not to be outdone and gave us a sleepless night. That would be December 23rd. She developed a fearful fever on the 24th. We have the antibiotic and started her on that. She was plenty sick, and now the rash had come and strawberry tongue. We concluded that she had scarlet fever. Nearly every missionary family up here before us has lost a baby to scarlet fever. We think the altitude is too high for the strain on the little hearts, so you can imagine our feelings. For Christmas cheer, Wilda previously nursed a small rose bush in a pot and had snowed it with flakes of cotton and saved a red candle to light in front of it. But on December 25th, they were fighting for Lilla's life. Every half hour for 2 nights, she would cry for a drink, kick off her bedding, toss and doze. The antibiotics certainly helped, and by the New Year's Day we heard she's a pale, droopy shadow of her normal happy self. But she has started eating at least, and seems to be over the fever. Only a few days before she developed the sore throat, Arthur had written, "He would have us without care, just so our wee lass is with us." Then that wee lass was stricken. It never seemed to fail. Every testimony to God's faithfulness was followed by a test as whether they would really believe it or not. There are heart searchings which only heaven ever see. "Satan asked to have you," said our Lord at one time, "that he might sift you as wheat." Luke chapter 22, verse 31. Then he added the only words which made it possible to believe that it was a God of love who gave such permission. "But I made supplication for you, that your faith fails not." Someone has said that we can be tossed in the winnowing basket and fall until we hit the prayer of our great intercessor. But we will fall no further. His prayer holds us, and then you, once you have turned again, establish your brethren. There is a reason for permission to use the winnowing basket. Out of that sieve came 1st and 2nd Peter. Out of this sieve came the cry, "Through your fire would I learn. You are God when I can't understand."
Thank you again for joining Wednesday Inspirational Book Lounge. Stay tuned for another installment next week of Green Leaf in Drought Time.